For 25 years, this community has enjoyed the gift of Greenwood. This beautiful home, contents, and property were given to posterity by Phoebe Nobbs McKellar Hyde, descendant of many a generation of family owners. It was she who, as a young teenager, envisioned Greenwood's future as a vital touchstone. She knew hundreds of years of history had played out in this house and on these grounds, tales she brought to life through drama. A trained stage actress, Phoebe's love for theater, her love for music, books, and antiques have marked the direction our museum has taken. She died in 1994, choosing to bequeath her home to this nonprofit foundation, preserving some of Quebec's most interesting historic houses and places of natural beauty. There is a garden with mature trees and plantings that fill each season with color. There is a history deeply connected with the land and the river, with Indigenous and European roots. In 1996 came the formation of the first board of directors and our own designation as a not-for-profit organization. Board members would meet in the house, some friends of Phoebe's and some descendants of the home's inhabitants. Budgets were drawn up, fundraising ideas evolved, priorities identified, favors called in. Donations of items led to a garage sale, and early sales here brought a modest income for our burgeoning Centre for Living History. At first, public access was limited to the grounds, but that didn't stop activities from taking place. In 1998, participants joined a willow workshop. By the end of the afternoon, everyone could proudly sit in the chairs they had made themselves. Sometimes there were Greenwood outings or excursions, and always people would get into the spirit. In summer, board meetings could end up with a tour of the garden. One of the first indoor gatherings was a Victorian-style Christmas celebration. It was met with much enthusiasm. We could always rely on the Greenwood singers to be there for every occasion, lifting hearts for all who were fortunate enough to hear them. The Kitchen Ceilidh also provided music, wearing their characteristic Québécois ceinture fléchée. Every event involved food. We are grateful to have had the best cooks in the kitchen, so many over the years, and like other supporters, far too many to properly thank here. Our first pamphlet was published and distributed, telling the early story, helping raise our visibility and build our reputation. Every season, there was much to report in the newsletters. Each article reflected a different aspect of Greenwood's character. There were reminiscences of Phoebe and features highlighting the collections. Lists of friends of Greenwood grew longer. Board members, friends, and community had become the lifeblood of our museum. There have been occasions over the last 25 years to dress in period costumes, and summer interns have also done so, just as Phoebe used to do when she had gatherings, and where, at her tea parties, none of the ladies could have imagined the teacups from which they sipped would turn up at a Greenwood Treasures in the Attic fundraiser decades later. Another much depended on tradition in Hudson. This Antiques Roadshow type of event has its own seasonally inspired Greenwood twist. Homemade apple pies. Mixed, rolled out, filled, crafted with love, these pies have become famous, and demand for Greenwood's various recipes would prompt another fundraiser, a cookbook, the first of which will be hopefully many volumes. Each season has had its highlights. Sometimes it's watching the Hudson's Players Club, of which Phoebe herself was a founder, engage in theater on the lawn. The plays continue to bring liveliness and laughter to these grounds, just as Phoebe used to do, and which events are so appreciated still. There have as well been many musical concerts in the garden, and every time the weather is perfect. Over the years, the real and symbolic hearth of Greenwood has been witness to family gatherings used for cooking, for heating, and of course, then as now, trimmed for Christmas. Very early on in Greenwood's 25 years as a museum, an old-fashioned Christmas began. People gathered next to the hearth to hear stories of this home's earliest owners in the very same room that was first built in 1732. What a natural fit for the surroundings. Decorations looked right at home, and the house hosted many guests through the season, some gentlemen inspired to don top hats, and others were ever gracious at welcoming guests. There were beloved, memorable readings from beloved, memorable storytellers. The grand tradition of play acting, as it was once called, lives on in Greenwood's collection of period costumes, once worn by Shakespearean actors, many worn by Phoebe, acting out the stories of Canada itself in this heritage home. Whether comedy or tragedy, serious or silly, the stories are all presented with infectious enthusiasm and true talent. Phoebe, of course, had loved to entertain children and to involve them in plays themselves at young ages. If she only knew how many more children have enjoyed entertainments like these right here. With the help of summer intern students, our pamphlet was updated, and through more tours and more events, shared celebrations season after season, our profile and appreciation grew. Word spread that Greenwood was the place to be. More programs were proposed and adopted, adding to a growing list of annual activities. New people came on board who helped organize and implement new programs. Of course, there were more cleaning bees, and one summer a garden club started up, and another summer there was a filmmaking project, and as always, there were more cleaning bees. Meanwhile, many of Greenwood's treasures were looking a little the worse for wear. Work was needed to slow down deterioration and prevent further problems. So, Adopt an Artifact was born. The restorations were done by professionals, always with the greatest of attention to historic authenticity. In the case of every project like this, and there have been many dozens of them now, they were funded solely by donations from the public. One of Greenwood's largest restorations was undertaken when it became evident that the old dining room ceiling was sagging. The new reinforced ceiling perfectly matches the old one. Everything was repainted as though time had not altered a note. The newsletters kept coming, describing special intern projects, announcing the next fundraising film. Another event, a reenactment of the War of 1812. What had started as a burgeoning speaker series had expanded into a wonderful new package, a full-blown festival called Storyfest, some particular moments of which more than made all the efforts worthwhile. The Storyfest banner has become associated with some of the most acclaimed writers of our time. Word spread not only amongst attendees, but many of the authors were treated so well and so enjoyed their experience at Storyfest they told other writers about it, and thus one after another said yes, they'd love to come. Audiences were enthralled with the literary lineup. Who can forget the time Canada's best-known fiction writer, after enjoying a delicious dinner in Greenwood's dining room, agreed to pose in front of the de la Dernier's china platter? Over the years, Storyfest committee members have changed, but all should feel gratified to have created and maintained what has become Greenwood's best-loved tradition. And still, the newsletters keep rolling off the press. There are goals to strengthen, partnerships to affirm, photo archives to preserve, and more Adopt an Artifact projects. There are more special activities, such as a flower arranging workshop. How did 25 years go by so fast? Still, the friends and volunteers pitch in when called upon, season after season, each generously giving their time and effort and their professional talents and abilities to our collective mandate. Still, the board of directors meet, the names and faces, and now places, for we meet virtually, ever evolving. We know the dedication to Greenwood and what it stands for has and will keep on being consistent with what Phoebe's dreams were made of. Greenwood will keep revealing more and more aspects of its fascinating past and stand witness to the history that continues to unfold here. Congratulations on an amazing 25 years, Greenwood Centre for Living History.